It is the year 2075, and cats now rule the Earth, a situation which, given the current state of the world, most cat owners will hardly find surprising. Determined to become an intergalactic species, the cats establish competing space programs to seek out strange new kibble. So begins the game of MLEM Space Agency, a push-your-luck dice game full of feline frenzy, rocket explosions and poor life choices. Nobody even mentioned opposable thumbs. Beamed down from the mind of Reiner Knizia, MLEM is a push-your-luck dice game where players will attempt to select the castronaut best suited for each rocket launch. Through a series of extraterrestrial journeys, they will endeavour to make the most of their position on each space rocket to lay claim to cosmic locations, carefully weighing when to jump ship and when to dig in their claws for just one more roll. I'm going to start by taking you through the game rules and objectives, which I hope will provide valuable context for my thoughts on this game. However, if you want to jump straight to my review, you can do so by using the chapters or the timestamp above. 3, 2, 1, zoomies. MLEM's victory conditions are straightforward enough. At the end of the game, the player with the most points wins. Points are required by landing their feline astronauts to explore and secure cosmic bodies, be they moons, from which points are required based on who lands on them first, or planets, from which points are achieved based on who has the most astronauts present at the end of the game, with ties broken by the player who landed on the planet first. If they are extremely lucky, they may even reach deep space, with the commander of the rocket taking points from the comet, and all other cats still on the rocket gaining points from the galaxy space. Some of the astronauts may grant extra points if they happen to land on the correct type of cosmic body. Additionally, there are 4 goals that will grant bonus points. These will award points to the first player to have astronauts on 4 different moons, the first player to have astronauts on 4 different planets, the first player to have 3 astronauts on a single planet, and the first player to have 2 astronauts in deep space. With this in mind, players will need to balance the best landing opportunities against the probability of dice, whilst also working to block their opponents from having their own 5-year missions go all their own way. Each turn of MLEM will see the launch of a rocket to explore the cosmic mat. Starting with the player who last cleaned a litter box, a player will be assigned as the expedition's commander, responsible for rolling dice and taking decisions about their use. The commander will assign one of their astronauts to the uppermost free space on the rocket, with each other player doing the same in sequence. The commander will then roll all 6 dice. Dice of identical symbol are grouped together, and the commander may then assign one or more of these groups to propelling the rocket forward, providing the rocket is currently in a space that shows a matching symbol. For example, the starting space on the track allows the use of dice with a single pip or 2 pips, but not those with 3 or 4 pips. In addition, some spaces may use dice with the flame icon, known as the afterburner symbol. The commander can assign a single group of dice or several, but all dice within the chosen groups must be used once that group has been chosen. To see how far this propels the rocket, the total pips on these dice are added together. Dice with the afterburner symbol are worth variable pips according to the space on the track the rocket is located at the start of the turn. The rocket will then be moved, and any dice used to propel the rocket are then discarded from future rolls. The only exception is that dice showing the afterburner symbol are returned to the dice pool and will therefore contribute to movement in future rolls. Each player in sequence, starting with the commander, will then have a decision to make. They can disembark the rocket onto the adjacent planet or moon, assuming one is present with spaces available, or remain on the rocket for a further turn. If the commander disembarks, the next player's astronaut becomes the commander from that point on, but otherwise command remains with the same player. Because higher value locations tend to be further along the track, there is incentive not to bail out too early. However, remaining on the rocket carries risk. This is because once all players that wish have moved their astronauts off the rocket, the commander will roll any dice that remain in the pool again. Providing they roll at least one symbol that matches those at their new position on the track, they will be able to spend groups of dice again to move further along the track, and another opportunity for disembarkation will likely arrive. However, because the pool of dice will likely be smaller, there is more chance that no matching symbols will be rolled. If this occurs, the rocket crashes and all astronauts on board return to Earth to try again. It's a good thing cats always land on their feet. The commander can never have 0 dice to roll. If this would otherwise be the case, a single dice is restored to the pool from those used. But inevitably, the more times the dice are rolled, the more likely the rocket will explode. Once all cats on the rocket have disembarked or the rocket has crashed, the next player starts the turn as commander and a new rocket is launched unless the endgame conditions have been met. Each time the rocket crashes, the cosmic failure token is advanced. The game will end and points calculated if this token ever reaches the end of its track, which will occur after 11 such crashes. The game will alternatively end when any player has successfully disembarked all 8 of their astronauts. This core turn structure is simple enough, but players will need to ensure they select the correct Catmanaut for each expedition in order to optimise their score. Each of the player's 8 astronauts has a special ability that may help them achieve a satisfactory landing and perhaps even reveal something about their intentions for the round. 3 of the astronauts double the points acquired if the astronaut disembarks at a particular type of location, moon, planet or deep space. 2 of the astronauts can provide extra options for disembarkation, with astronauts bearing this symbol able to disembark as if the rocket was a space higher or lower along the cosmic mat, whilst astronauts with this symbol can, if they wish, disembark onto the current location of the rocket if it crashes rather than being forced to return to Earth. If at least one astronaut on board the rocket carries this symbol, the rocket will commence its journey from the 3rd step on the cosmic mat, a collective benefit to the entire crew, but one which otherwise does not give any additional benefit to the player that used this token in particular. Similarly, any astronauts carrying this symbol can be flipped at the discretion of the commander in exchange for the effect of a single die with a single pip. This can even save the rocket from crashing if the rocket is at a space which allows such dice to be used. Lastly, the commander is forced to discard one of their available dice each time an astronaut with this symbol disembarks to a minimum of 1 die. There are some variant rules that can be added to the game, such as bonus points for encountering UFOs or secret missions that reward players for getting their cats to particular locations on the cosmic track, in the event that having played the game a few times you want to spice things up a bit. MLEM's production quality is refreshingly high for a game that you can pick up for less than £30. The vivid catty artwork is delightfully fun and is further elevated by components made from robust cardstock and the presence of a neoprene cosmic map as standard. Even the box has been given a finish that makes it feel soft to the touch. For a game that is in some ways pretty simple, Rebel Studio has certainly gone all out to make this a game that catches your eye. And catch your eye it almost undoubtedly will, its cute aesthetic and straightforward gameplay ensuring it generates wide appeal. The observant among you will probably have noticed that the presence of cats in this game is more of an artistic choice than a thematic one, but it will serve to make the game appeal to younger players and families. The game recommends an 8+ years age limit, though the suitability of this game for your own litter of kittens is likely to depend on whether they are mature enough to understand the various possible astronaut actions and the balancing of risk and reward inherent in this type of game. I'm inclined to describe the game as semi-cooperative. Actions such as the use of the satellite starting point carry mutual benefit, but equally there is the opportunity to impact the commander's remaining dice, and the strict order in which players choose to leave the rocket makes this all the more risky. While not explicitly part of the rules, this often results in a certain amount of bartering as players provisionally agree courses of action to give the crew the best chance of reaching deep space, whilst at the same time trying to secure an individual points advantage. Much of the pleasure of this game comes from the emotional outbursts of the players as their competing actions alter the state of the board. As a result, the game shines brightest when you can get 4 or 5 of your family or social group around the board to play it. That said, the game also plays surprisingly well at just 2 players, where cooperation is easier to secure and players can more easily trade favours and aim for higher scores. I'm not sure I'd buy this game specifically for 2-player games, but the game doesn't crash for want of higher player counts. The obvious criticisms of this game will be no surprise. At its core, this is a game heavily reliant on the luck of the dice roll, and I know this will be a drawback for players that prefer to have more agency over their success in a game. In the games I've played, scores have always remained reasonably close, but it is frankly a game in which it is difficult to be reliably successful or to develop cast iron strategies. It is notable that I've never reached deep space nor played against anyone who has reached deep space, even though such a result is always theoretically possible even if you burn through the rocket's dice early. For me personally, the presence of the astronaut actions provides just enough luck mitigation to create the veneer of tactical decision making, even if it is as thin as the proverbial cat's whisker. your mileage may vary. But I think to truly appreciate this game, you have to be open to the chaos. The fun of the game is less about who has the most points at the end, but rather about all the rounds in between. Seeing your group's wildly different risk appetites, foiling plans with the timely departure of dice-reducing cats, trading the use of your satellite cat this turn for reciprocal favours later in the game. It's a game that provokes player interaction and conversation far beyond what the straightforward rules might imply. And whilst seasoned gamers might be forgiven for wishing the game had a little more complexity, this does at least make it a great game to inflict on the less experienced or enthusiastic board gamers in your life, with the actions of the different catronauts being about as complicated as the game gets. The fixed turn limit created by the two endgame conditions works well to ensure the game does not outstay its welcome, as long as players are reasonably prompt with their decision making. I won't try to persuade you that this game is for everyone, or that it's the sort of game you'll spend a full evening playing, although you do you. But it has definitely become a game I look forward to revisiting. It's a game where decisions do make a difference, but it also doesn't require excessive brain power, a great antidote for a more complex board game, or for an after-work gaming session where nobody wants to think too hard. So if you're looking for a game that won't break the bank but has gorgeous artwork, that has table presence but won't intimidate new players, a game nobody should take too seriously but has enough meat to encourage replay, a beer and pretzel game that is the perfect excuse to get some friends together and chuck some dice, you should definitely consider giving MLEM Space Agency a try. As always, I'd love to hear your experiences with this game in the comments. If this review was useful to you, don't blast off straight away. Why not take a moonwalk through our eclectic back catalogue of videos, including more reviews, playthroughs and all aspects of the tabletop hobby. I'd love to stick around, but I've just spotted my own reflection and must hiss at it until it goes away. Until we reach escape velocity once more, remember to work hard, play better, and take care out there.